Dynamite Comics just finished their first arc of Ben 10 with issue 1, 2, and 3. And guys, it not only feels DC's absolute comic, but also feels like a horror version of Ben Tennyson. So since issue 3 is out and acts as a pretty natural conclusion to this section of the story, I think it's about time we get into everything that's happened so far leading up to everything with Zombozo, and also awesome facts, Easter eggs, references you missed in the first arc of the comic. We open immediately with the big bad himself, Vilgax, but he's not just sitting around in a healing tank this time. No. He's established right off the bat as an unstoppable galactic conqueror. Now, check out the art style here. It gives him this incredibly imposing, shadowy presence. And a quick detail for you, those aren't massive shoulder muscles you're looking at. Those are his facial tendrils. He explicitly states that he has systematically hunted down, broken, and completely destroyed every single superhero and planetary army that ever dared to challenge him in the galaxy. This heavily implies that in this new comic timeline, major cosmic powers like the Incursions or the Hybrid have already been completely wiped out or enslaved by Vilgax's forces. He believes the universe contains absolutely no weapons left to threaten him, except for the lost gauntlet on Earth. You can also see a gold gauntlet in his hand, similar to the Shield of Seagull from Alien Force. It means he already defeated the champions of the 10 worlds. Back on Earth, the dynamic between Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa Max feels, well, nostalgic. Max is spot on, and the bickering is actually a little nastier than the original show. Gwen is portrayed as an alien conspiracy theorist and a massive space nerd. This obsession with the cosmos serves as a direct Easter egg and foreshadows her eventual transformation into an Anodite. While bickering in the opening campfire scene, Gwen cuts deep by revealing that Ben's parents didn't invite him on the trip just for fun. They sent him away because they couldn't handle him and needed a break to figure out their own marital life problems. So instead of just sending Ben away on a wholesome summer road trip with Grandpa Max, the comic reveals a much sadder and darker situation. But when that pod crashes, things get creepy, fast. Out of this eerie green mist, the Omnitrix doesn't just clamp onto Ben's wrist, it slithers. It uses these wired metallic tendrils to physically crawl up his arm and attach itself. It feels so much more visceral, more alien than we've ever seen. In the classic 2005 cartoon, Ben approaches the crash site, inspects the pod, and the watch attaches only when he reaches his hand out. It's an accident. But in the Dynamite continuity, the watch is actively alive. Ben is standing meters away from the crash zone when the device literally launches itself out of the pod, flying through the air like Venom, and forcefully glues itself onto his arm. And guys, there is zero time to breathe. The military is instantly swarming the crash site, which gives the whole thing this grounded, tense atmosphere. But the real nightmare fuel? A genuinely terrifying cyborg bear, with exposed machinery and glowing red eyes, corners Ben in the woods. And the advanced AI inside this watch is far more protective and aggressive. When a massive predator corners Ben in the forest, he doesn't spin a dial or slam down the core. The Omnitrix senses the immediate threat to its user's life, begins flashing violently on its own, and automatically triggers a hands-free force transformation into 4 arms. The dialogue here is great. Ben literally calls the bear Freddy Fazbear before throwing hands. 4 arms looks incredible in this new art style. He's got a slightly different outfit, but he keeps that classic brawler energy. The Omnitrix actually cooperates for once, switching Ben mid-fight. Recognizing that its host's human body is actively failing under the biological strain, the Omnitrix instantly triggers an emergency detransformation to save Ben's life. This level of self-governing host defense is something the show's prototype watch never possessed. But the absolute standout is Heatblast, and the design. It's phenomenal. It looks less like magma rock and more like a solid, glowing suit of armor, completely engulfed in flames. It's a huge departure from the classic look. Which brings us to a massive lore question. Where did that cybernetic bear even come from? If you look closely at the panel details, this animal isn't a normal forest predator. It has cybernetic enhancements and mechanical technology grafted directly into its flesh. While the issue doesn't state it outright, core fans know this screams the handiwork of Dr. Animo, who is famous for unhinged animal gene splicing and cyber mutations. When Ben finally manages to trigger Heatblast, we see another major mechanic, borrowed straight from Ben 10, Alien Force. The moment the transformation finishes, the Omnitrix instantly hardwires an instinctual, basic understanding of the alien's name, vocal cords, and powers directly into Ben's brain. However, because Ben is an untrained 10-year-old kid, he accidentally draws far more raw thermal energy than he can control. In a moment of sheer panic, his flames overflow, and he completely incinerates the attacking forest beast. The issue ends with Vilgax locking onto the signal, and Grandpa Max revealing he knew this was going to happen eventually. He just didn't expect it so soon. Then, finally, we get the first look of Vilgax's ship and full front look of Vilgax. This warship looks less like a ship and more like a floating jagged rock or fortress, which matches Vilgax's more biological feral redesign. His upper body is so over-exaggerated and hunched that he has that classic fantasy troll goblin silhouette rather than the super soldier look from Alien Force. Without the mask, his face is much more expressive and monstrous. The way the tendrils hang like a scraggly beard definitely adds to that old mountain goblin aesthetic. Let's dive into the breakdown for second issue. We open with Gwen inside the rust bucket, and she's not just sitting around, she's digging into Grandpa Max's personal life. She discovers a hidden stash of advanced, mysterious technology that hints that Max has been hiding some serious secrets from them all along. But while Gwen is uncovering the truth behind the RV, Ben is dealing with his own nightmare. Right off the bat, things get chaotic. Ben is stuck in Heatblast form, but with a terrifying twist. The Omnitrix is glitching out, trapping him in a painful, shifting loop of alien form. He's growing extra limbs, and the Omnitrix is forcing him through a painful transformation loop. It's a great visual, but it's just the start. While Ben is struggling to regain control, Grandpa Max is playing a high-stakes game of cat and mouse with the feds. Colonel Rosum is initially dismissive of Max until a soldier alerts him that Max holds an active, high-level code word security clearance, forcing the military to treat him as a person of major interest rather than a random civilian or poacher. This moment highlights Max's hidden history with the plumbers and government agencies, establishing early on that he knows far more about the unfolding alien situation than he lets on. We see a comet crash, but it's actually the iconic crab mercenary from classic series. But this isn't the same mercenary you remember. The creative team is leaning into a much darker, more mature tone. The scene where he dismantles the military squad is brutal. We're talking impalements, soldiers being cut in half. It's intense. It's a stark reminder that this series isn't holding back on the action, and it proves that our heroes are in way over their heads. Watching him dismantle the soldiers was easily the highlight of this chapter. It's a brutal, fast-paced display of power that we haven't seen in a while, but the momentum stops dead immediately after. Ben was desperately fleeing the military when Gwen suddenly showed up in the rust bucket, trying to straight up kill him because she thought he was a dangerous alien monster. In issue 3, we open immediately with a stunning panel of Ben barely escaping getting crushed by the rust bucket. With the vehicle stopped, a determined Gwen pursues him on foot to finish the job. But before she can lay a hand on him, Ben screams out, "It's me!" Right then, the comic treats us to another highly detailed, deeply unsettling transformation sequence as he reverts back to his human form. Ben is visibly haunted, completely terrified by the physical and emotional toll the watch is taking on him. Gwen asks questions, but Ben says he can't explain it. Something just fell out of the sky, but he tells Gwen he's scared. Now, this is a notable characterization change I really like for Ben and Gwen. In issue 1, the two are picking fights and bickering with each other a lot, very similar to the classic series, but in this issue, they have a more fleshed out and three-dimensional relationship, being more open with each other about how they're feeling and their care for each other. She also checks in on him later on to make sure he's okay after he becomes human again. So I really like these little scenes of vulnerability with Ben and Gwen when Ben tells her he's scared. While the military throws everything they have at Crab's bloody rampage, Grandpa Max ducks away into the shadows. Max pulls out a highly advanced, distinctly alien communicator that's cleverly disguised as a standard compass. Right after he activates it, back where the kids are, the rust bucket suddenly starts up on its own and drives off, presumably autopiloting its way to Max. It's a great nod to Max's hidden plumber tech from the Weather Monster episode, though it hilariously leaves Ben and Gwen stranded on foot right in the danger zone. I like how Gwen delivers a massive character moment here. When Gwen realizes the truth, the dynamic completely shifts. As the surrounding chaos escalates, she motivates him just like she did in the original series. She tells Ben to go hero, reminding him that innocent people are dying out there and he has to use the weapon on his wrist to help. And Ben gives that hero look at the Omnitrix. Answering Gwen's call to action, Ben slams down the Omnitrix and charges at Crab with full speed like a raging rhino. Dynamite's design for this form is incredible. It's much sharper and more aggressive, featuring prominent crystalline spikes, just like Alien Force design used to have on his chest, but only two, a sleek headpiece, and heavy, blocky forearms that make him look built for heavy combat. The Diamondhead design of Genrex and Ben 10 crossover had also cool, blocky arms like that, and that's why it was my favorite. Now it looks much better than previous designs of the comic. When Crab spots him, he instantly recognizes the species. Shocked to find a Petrosapien on Earth, Crab immediately starts hyping up his own cosmic reputation, boasting that it has been eons since he last fought one. But as they clash, Crab's experience gives him the upper hand. He realizes that while Ben has insane raw power, he completely lacks combat experience. Then comes the biggest lore drop of the issue. Crab locks onto the energy signature of the watch and refers to Ben's alien form as a proto-being. For all you lore channels and power scalers out there, this is huge. It heavily implies that in this universe, these transformations might be volatile, unrefined biological states rather than just seamless DNA copies. Just as Crab gears up to fire a devastating laser beam, the ultimate worst-case scenario happens. The Omnitrix times out early. The detransformation is pure body horror. The beautiful, hard diamond exterior literally melts back into raw, meaty human flesh in front of a stunned Crab. Before the bounty hunter can capitalize, Grandpa Max roars in with the rust bucket, unleashing a devastating sound-based weapon that completely disorients Crab. This gives the Omnitrix just enough time to reboot. Ben slams it down again, and this time, we get 4 arms. Sporting a classic confident hero's grin that feels straight out of the original series, Ben completely thrashes Crab. Literally ripped his eyes out with one punch. Looks like the whole family don't have any no-kill rule here. I mean, look at Grandpa Max's dialogues here. This is what you call the absolute Grandpa Max. As the military closes in, Max deploys a classic tactical smoke screen, rescuing the kids and pulling a exhausted Ben back into the vehicle. As they escape, Max reassures them, uttering the iconic line, "Summer's only just getting started." Meanwhile, the military look at Crab's corpse and say they are going to use it as a gift, suggesting they will experiment with his body and use it to improve themselves. This makes me think they could be using it to create Sect. You know, this organization appeared in the franchise only like 2 times. This military agency supposed to deal with aliens. But the true chilling highlight of issue 3 is saved for the very final page. We cut to deep space, inside a massive flagship, where we get our first official look at Vilgax. Unlike previous iterations where he looks more like a raw monster, this version of Vilgax is fully clothed in intimidating heavy armor that absolutely screams Cosmic Warlord. His dialogue here is incredibly intense, calculating, and dark, setting up a version of the Conqueror that feels genuinely terrifying. And looks like he was busy conquering some planets, but after hearing Crab's report, he decides to officially taking matters into his own hands. We also get hint of the next Zombozo arc in next issues. Now, some might hate me, but if I'm honest with you guys, I really like this Crab military action sequence better than the random Vilgax minions attacking in the original series. The art style and storytelling, strategically fighting like sumo wrestler, makes it overall the better issue than previous issues. Dynamite is building an absolute masterpiece of a Ben 10 story. Drop a comment below. What do you think Crab meant by proto-being? And how do you feel about Gwen almost taking Ben out at the start? Let me know. Smash that like button.